2019 and I'm still talking about Ghostbusters for work. Okay, Monkey's Paw, I get it. I'll never ask for anything that sounds nice again. Just give me only obviously uncomplicated bad things from now on.
It just popped in there.
What? What just popped in there?
Alright, so here's a thing that happened last week that started out stupid and tiresome and ended up still stupid and tiresome, but also sort of accidentally clarifying to the degree that any of these dumb, pointless things can really be any part of any sort of clarity. I mean, after all, isn't the whole point of almost everything I cover on this series to distract us from the important things, because important things tend to be, bad?
Enjoy the show, for one day we shall die.
But okay, so remember how they finally did another Ghostbusters movie like 3 years ago, and it wasn't really a sequel, but it wasn't really a remake either, just kind of a same basic idea, but a new scenario and different people? Yeah, anyway, it was fine, not wonderful, not terrible, not a giant moneymaker, not a dud, just, a movie. Anyway, the most significant thing about it was they got the dude who did Bridesmaids to direct it. He did it with all women this time around, which I thought was kind of nifty, but surprise, surprise, a bunch of internet shitlords turned it into a thing, which sort of ended up overwhelming the whole presence of the film culturally, putting yet another speed bump in the rights holders' decades-long struggle to turn a somewhat niche nostalgia property into Star Wars, Marvel, Ninja Turtles, whatever else level, consistently merchandisable A-list brand everyone seems to assume Ghostbusters would have been if only the actor who plays the most popular character hadn't spent 2 decades wanting nothing to do with the franchise and saying hell no to any more sequels after Part 2. Anyway, fast forward a few weeks ago, and surprise, Sony Pictures decides they're going to try this again, and this time they're not messing around with the whole let's see if this holds any appeal to anyone who doesn't already like it thing. They're going full-on J.J. Abrams style Force Awakens fan service, at least in terms of the pre-production marketing, greenlighting a brand new sequel to the original series that'll bring back the original continuity, music, probably the surviving actors and cameos, and some kind of tie into the original story for good measure, and be directed by Jason Reitman, son of the original Ghostbusters director Ivan Reitman. Supposedly centering on a new team of child Ghostbusters, apparently 2 boys and 2 girls living in a small town. I wonder what gave them that idea. But hey, fine, let's have it seem to be the general consensus. The whole this time with kids angle sounds fun, connecting it to the other 2 is cool if you care about that kind of thing. Sad as it is, probably would have shut a bunch of the louder people who were mad at the last one up if they'd done it there. People who were genuinely hoping for a sequel to the 2016 movie were bummed, including one of the actresses, Leslie Jones, who kind of caught the worst of the fanboy hate storm at the time. Can't imagine why.
I know writers who use subtext, and they're all cowards. Okay?
But overall, it seemed like this was going to play out somewhat quietly. I mean, we're on our 3rd Spider-Man, maybe 4th if you count the animated one. They're going to tell us who the next Batman is any day now. There's about to be like 2 or 3 different people playing the Joker, probably. Like, nothing is definitive or final anymore, so it's hard to invest that much worry in these things, or so you'd think. Because then last week, in an interview, Reitman, the younger, gave a quote where he said this Ghostbusters movie, being so heavily informed by nostalgia for the original and revisiting the continuity, music cues, iconography, etc., would hand the franchise back to the fans, which is the sort of thing you'd pretty much want to be saying if you're marketing the relaunch of a nostalgia property. Hey, everyone already loves this thing, please come pay us so you can love it again, and also go all bug nuts on social media because that's free marketing for us. Unfortunately, seeing it phrased like that also made a lot of people, myself included, just groan as well, because it felt like either Reitman himself, the studio, or both were looking at the stupid internet backlash that hit the previous attempt at a relaunch and saying, okay, let's do some pandering to those sad, abusive assholes and see if that's the fan base that'll drive some sales. And really, even though it's pretty unlikely that was the case, those guys were going to act like they got the win, and that would be awful anyway. Which of course totally happened, and then the not awful side of the fandom on the other end, and people in the entertainment press who'd had to cover this nonsense for the last few years, jumped onto the quote, essentially putting it on blast as, well, if this is the attitude they're taking to this, so much for our enthusiasm. So this became a whole roiling round robin of angry bullshit for damn near a whole day, until word that he'd stirred some shit apparently got back to Reitman, who, being someone who actually works actively in the entertainment industry, presumably had other things to do than fart around on social media all day, because the whole thing ended with him hopping online to more or less clarify, whoa, hey, not what I meant, I like that other movie just fine, we're not doing a screw you guys to the female Ghostbusters, this one's just doing a fan service callback sequel instead of a broad conceptual reboot, that's all. Followed shortly by Paul Feig, who directed the 2016 movie in question, also chiming in to add that Jason was a big supporter of his version, and that there's no bad blood between anyone involved, which I'm inclined to believe pretty much because it honestly just makes more sense than anyone in the actual film industry being seriously invested one way or another in internet sad boy nonsense or the incidental agitation thereof. They're not doing the full nostalgia relaunch of this to take Ghostbusters back from the feminazis and give it to moist 4chan dweebs who think they're the real fans. No one cares about those guys. They have no market presence of any significant size, and a cursory glance at literally everything else the people in studios involved in making this have on their production slate will tell you that they know this. They're doing it this way because it worked for Stranger Things and the Goldbergs and kind of also Ready Player One. The relevant point is, though, for several hours, a not insignificant slice of the entertainment press on the other end was losing its damn fool mind fighting an imaginary proxy war between film industry forces that were never really on opposing sides over something they wouldn't be fighting about if they were, the same way that pro athletes often have bigger personal rivalries with their own teammates than entire rival teams regardless of how the local fans feel, or how executives from Coke and Pepsi don't automatically hate each other, or like, if they do, it's not because of Coke and Pepsi. It's like an absurdist satire of Greek mythology where armies go to war over whose god is best, and then up on Mount Olympus, Zeus and Apollo and like Persephone are just chilling and happen to randomly look down, and then they're like, what the shit are those people fighting about? We've got no beef up here right now. Wait, do we? Ares, that's kind of your department. Are we good? Yeah, I thought so. What the hell? Look, modern fan culture is difficult. We all know this, or we should. We're more out in the open about important and relevant things that are adjacent to the culture and the stuff we talk about, and that's a good thing, but sometimes we still manage to forget that no matter how much bigger the discussions are, it's still an almost wholly separate thing from the actual films, games, whatever, and the people producing them. And keeping that in perspective once in a while might help us all stop wasting time fighting on behalf of people and things that aren't even fighting themselves. I'm Bob, and that's the big picture.